Space Podcast, Third Space Podcast, Third Space Podcast, Third Space Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Third Space Podcast, episode number 70. Is it racist? That's the title of the episode. Kind of a provocative title, I guess I'll admit that. And the episode, well, depending on your perspective, may or may not be provocative, but I don't think it's offensive. So we play a game in this episode called Is It Racist? I even made a really low-quality jingle for the game, which is sad because it'll probably be never used again. But the basis of this game is that I basically played a trick on Daniel. I asked him for 3 somewhat random things. He had no idea what I was going to do with them. And then I asked him in the game whether these 3 things are or are not racist based on our modern definition of racism. And that's the key, right? Because as I'm sure anyone has either knows or has heard, there seems to be this morphing definition of what actually constitutes racism, and the game highlights that. I take these items and I did some research and found examples of these things being considered racist. You may find these things to be particularly innocuous, and you may be surprised to find that actually, at least some people consider them racist in some fashion. And that's the fun bit of the game. So there are some laughs along the way, and yeah, the whole thing is a joke. But we actually do have some semi-serious discussion about racism and how people talk about racism and so on. So maybe if you don't find it funny, you'll find that conversation at least somewhat engaging. But I'll get right to it. Hope you enjoy the episode.
Third Space Podcast, Third Space Podcast, Third Space Podcast, Third Space Podcast.
My friend, Daniel, I have a game for you today.
Oh, I'm ready to play a game.
This is a modern game for modern times. And
I'm a modern man.
well, then this is perfect for you. Considering that I made a jingle for the game, it's very high quality. So,
Okay.
Here we go. This is the game.
All right.
Is it racist? That's right. Is it racist?
I'm very uncomfortable. Okay.
A modern game for modern times. Now, I know
Modern racism.
modern racism, exactly. Now, this isn't going to be an offensive segment. This is an educational segment. So, just to...
Oh, man. I'm shaking my head. I was like, I should have asked what this game was,
Well, before this episode, I asked you, essentially unprompted, to provide me with 3 things, just 3 random things. I asked you to provide me with a common household item, a
Yes.
common hobby a person might have, and a common job or occupation.
Right.
And you provided answers for those 3 things. And so the object of this game is to determine, are those things racist? And I'm going to ask you to guess whether they are racist or not. I'm not going to ask you to maybe I will ask you to explain why. But I have consulted the repository of human knowledge, the internet, and I have determined the real answer as to whether these things are racist or not. And you have to try to see whether your gut reaction matches up to reality, objective, unquestionable reality.
So my 3 answers to your, common household.
Yeah, let's start with the
Okay.
common household item. So, what did you pick for that one?
I selected a vacuum.
A vacuum cleaner.
Yes, just I wasn't going for creativity. I just thought
that was the point.
household item, vacuum cleaner. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, just something common. A vacuum cleaner. Well, Daniel,
Is it
racist?
I don't know if I should just participate the last word of that chant. Well, I mean, no, but
No.
like the answer is gonna be yes. So, like,
Oh.
like,
Oh, I see you need some education. Okay,
is
so
a vacuum racist?
is the answer, is it no or yes?
I mean, if you're, all right, if we're being all serious, and it's like serious, of course not. And if do you want me to try and make it racist? Like, it's an interesting game in and of itself, and then see how much it aligns with your.
Why don't we do that? Yeah, I didn't think about yeah, obviously you could tell I didn't think about the getting into the weeds on this game.
Well, I'm just assuming. I'm just assuming the answer is yes to any of the. Like, that's the bit, right? Like, that's
hey,
it's
don't spoil it. Don't spoil it.
Sorry.
This is a scientific investigation, sociology going on here.
Yes, and so can anything? So, do you want me to try? Really, like, give it my best?
I would like to know how you think vacuums are racist, presuming that the answer is yes.
Okay, so I think you'd have to get back to. Well, I guess my brain's going in different directions. One of them is like,
It sounds like they're very racist.
Yeah, there's so many ways this is racist. Like, maybe it was invented by a white person. Maybe it was. Maybe people of color are expected to use vacuums in disproportionate amounts, right? Like, it's the maids and the house cleaners and people like the labor, the help, so to speak, use vacuums, and then maybe there's something to do with like it's a stolen idea from someone of color that was then popularized by a white person. I'm going through a specific lens of racism, sort of white versus people of color. I guess that's the general racist way.
Is there another way?
I guess it could be. Well, yeah, I would think
We've been told.
any group, thinking they're superior and exercising that. Like in some ways being actionable and or thinking that way is thinking they're superior and acting that they're superior. I know there's redefinitions and things like that, and power dynamics, and you can only be, but even with that, I mean, I guess that would still fit so someone of color invented it. And then it got stolen or popularized, and no credit given. That's one way it could be racist. Another way, yeah, it's
Would
just
that
like
mean that the vacuum is racist?
Oh man, if I try to get to the vacuum being racist,
like it just seems to me like I'm buying what you're saying, but it just seems like, again, I struggle with the same thing, right? The modern definition of racism, which is what this is all making fun of, or what I think is the more real definition of racism that you kind of outlined. And in that situation, if a white guy, if George Washington Carver invented the vacuum cleaner, and then some white guy swooped in, and Mr. Dyson swooped in and stole it, and
I like your examples,
quote unquote invented. I think this is history. Swooped in and quote unquote invented it. The vacuum cleaner wouldn't be racist. Mr.
Dyson would be racist, yeah, or a thief, or
a thief. Yeah, it may not even be racially motivated. It depends on the details.
Or his ability to get away with it might speak to some racism too.
Could be,
like looking the other way and not caring.
Right. Vacuum justice.
Yeah.
So lack of vacuum justice. That really sucks.
I see what you did.
So yeah. Anyway, all right. Sorry, not to step.
Am I anywhere near correct about any of this? Like, I'm just curious.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you what the objective facts of the matter
are. The objective fact time.
So I scoured all human knowledge and history, and I came up with
thank you, by the way.
Three incontrovertible examples of how vacuums are racist. So the first is from New Zealand. You may not have expected.
Were these published seriously? like,
Yes,
or I guess
yes.
not
No,
not
these are-
from like
This isn't.
okay.
These aren't Reddit posts or, someone tweeting.
Or the Onion being
No,
ironic.
no, this isn't
or
satire. These are
yeah.
news articles for whatever that's worth. But yeah, I found a very horrific incident from New Zealand where a vacuum cleaner retailer called Godfrey's, I've never heard of it, they had to withdraw a TV ad because it was racist.
Oh, the whole marketing that opens up a whole new line. Okay,
Sure,
okay.
yeah, they had a guy, a white man wearing a wig, and in the ad he said, "Listen, I don't know anything about this New Zealand area racism." So, but he said,
Okay.
they quoted it in the article. "Oh, hey, bro, this one's bigger than Kim.com's Chili Ben. Aye, Godfrey's heaps big sale. Oh, bro, this one's bigger than Jerry Brownlee's undies. Aye, oh, it's heaps big. Choice." Now, I don't know what any of that means because
That was really a lot. I was really trying to decipher heaps big. That still sounds very
it sounds New Zealand.
Kiwi, New
Yeah.
Zealandy.
Oh, it's heaps big. See, I can't even do a New
Heaps big.
Zealander accent, and if a New Zealander said it, I wouldn't be able to understand them. But apparently, people complained about this because it was blatantly racist. It perpetuated negative stereotypes about Maori and Pacific Islanders. So I assume that some of these phrases like "all bro," "all hey bro," "all bro," like maybe these are phrases that are used by those
Appropriated.
appropriated
by
people of all bro, I think would be the politically correct way to say it. People who use all bro, people of all bro. I don't know how you would say that correctly, but anyway, this guy, white guy, apparently was wearing a wig and making fun of these people, and that was a way for him to show his racist colors, so to speak. And vacuums were the key. Without vacuums, they wouldn't have been able to do this. So.
And vacuums were the key.
And
Let's
then
not
I
forget.
found a second instance similar, a Malaysian advertisement telling customers to buy a robotic vacuum, and in the ad it says, "Buy the robotic vacuum and fire your Indonesian maid." And apparently that was racist and hurtful. The Indonesian government got involved. They protested to the Malaysian people, and they banned the advertisement. And so that was pretty obviously heinous. So you were actually you didn't hit the advertisement angle, but you did mention about the help, quote unquote.
Yes.
And how
in that depiction of
vacuum cleaners are stealing
either stealing
people-
or designed for, or like this is their
Right,
domain.
people
Their
of-
worth is connected with that in some way.
people of cleaning. I think is how they
Cleaning POC.
identify.
Yeah.
And then I found one other instance of a robotic vacuum cleaner refusing to cross black strips on the floor. It wouldn't proceed further.
Wait.
And
Like its sensors or
yeah,
whatever would stop at the black strips.
yes, and it wouldn't go further.
Like you're talking about like a Roomba or whatever,
Yeah.
an automated one that would stop there.
Yes.
Okay.
And it wouldn't
And
proceed
that would-
any further. And that's
Yeah.
clearly
No
racist.
further explanation needed is what you're saying.
Well, think about it. It's a black strip, and the vacuum cleaner just refused. That doesn't seem right to me.
Just something. So this one this is just a fact that
Yeah, okay, that one's pretty kind of an anecdote. But it does prove that
but it fits.
black lines matter. So
Oh man.
so yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Well, so vacuums are racist.
vacuums are racist because of that. They provide an outlet for racist advertising to capitalist oppressive consumers. white robotic vacuum cleaners are stealing jobs from marginalized minorities and discriminating against strips of color.
Strips of color. Well, yeah. Screw vacuum cleaners.
Vacuum cleaners.
I will never vacuum again.
Me either. That is racist.
Well, yeah. Now I'll never look at vacuums the same way. You're right. They really do suck. Yeah.
The second category was a common hobby a person might have. What did you choose for this one?
A common hobby. I said model train building or collecting.
Yeah, now you kind of threw me with this one, and because I was thinking, I don't know how common this.
I think it was maybe too hard, but I wasn't trying to be hard.
Of
I
course,
didn't even
yeah,
know the
sure.
context. I was just like,
I know you didn't intentionally.
hobbies, like making little model trains, and I could have Lego, Legos. Like hobbies, it's funny because we say the word hobbies more than I think about the things I do as hobbies, like going on a walk or something like that, or reading a book. Watching movies doesn't feel like a hobby. Anyway, I mean, our B movie, that's a hobby. But so I think of hobbies as these things that you go to the hobby store and you buy paint, like really thin paint brushes and stuff. So that's where that came from.
That's fine.
Yeah, so
When you sent me that, I was a little worried at first because I thought, wow,
I might have stumped you.
This might not be
this
might not be racist. But I didn't have enough faith. I think. So
wait, am I gonna try and guess?
Oh, sorry. Please try to guess first. Is model train building racist?
I'm gonna go toward like a privileged angle that only like if you're doing model trains, let's face it, you're a white dude in his 40s or a dad who's like pushing this on their kid, and you're just definitely white. And all the privilege to be able to make kind of a mock, like you have to be doing well in life to have like fake small versions of things just for your pleasure, just to like collect and go, look at this, it I'm not doing a very good job here, but it's just there is something a little peculiar about like
I see your angle. Your angle is kind of the same thing with like skiing or some other costly hobby.
Golf, like being a member of a country club and collecting model trains. They're not that far apart. Like, right. And
the whole assumption hinges on the idea that certain races are inherently poorer than others, right?
I have to say that there's inherently or just practically they are poorer.
Inherently isn't the right word,
doesn't make sense. Yeah.
In our current moment, there exists discrepancies, and so it all hinges on that idea. If that idea isn't true, then you can't actually associate those anymore.
And so if there was like if there was a model train convention, and like it would just be a bunch of white dudes, and like that's just racist. A bunch of white dudes gathering together just is racist for obvious reasons. I
don't think we have to explain that one. And again, we're using the racist and modern racist. Like you can insert the word modern in front of every time we use the word racist.
Yes.
Maybe I should have.
Is it modern racism?
Man, you got it. We're on the same.
Let me think of anything else. I don't think maybe some commercials that were racist. I mean, I guess that's always, if it's a product or something, there might be a commercial, and the commercial could be racist. So fair.
Actually, I think you're going to be surprised at the angle that this one took. So again, I found the objective answers to these questions, and the advertising wasn't it, and I actually couldn't find any substantiation for the idea that model train building is a privileged hobby. Instead, it's a venue for racist displays. So in Las Vegas,
I didn't even think. Okay, go ahead.
You weren't thinking outside the box on this one, my friend.
Like a little like Indians and cowboys and stuff. Yes. I'm like, okay, I'm there.
Yeah. In Las Vegas, there was a model train display in the Las Vegas Mall. And before long, there were complaints that it was racist. One particular part of the display was the problem. And here's a quote. Community members are outraged that a racist train display showing a black man being prepared to be hung was tolerated and allowed at the mall for hundreds of children, families, and community members to see. One commentator said, "I'm saddened that we are here again protesting things that we thought were over with, a lynching display." And so that's the issue. Apparently, it was a Western-themed train set, and there was a hanging that was about to happen in this particular town, and unfortunately it turns out that the person being hanged was a black man, or a little black figurine of a man, anyway.
Yeah. Like, I mean, the connection between racism and lynching is like, it's one to, it's there's no link there. It is the thing. Like, that is racism manifest. And displaying it in a model train, I was really picturing, I thought you were going to say Cowboys and Indians and they were taking over a train or something, and that would, that'd be, stereotyping,
Mm-hmm.
or and I imagine that there's a disproportionate amount of Old West train model sets. Would you agree? Like, I'm
Yes.
talking out of my butt, but
No,
like,
I
come
think
on,
you're
like,
probably right. And this was in
trains
Las
were in their
Vegas,
heyday
so
for
it was
that.
kind of like, Western theme sort of thing.
Does the size and realism of it matter? I don't really think so, by the way. But like, are these like a quarter of an inch tall, like smaller, way smaller than Lego figurines, or are they?
I don't know the answer to that.
Does the realism of it matter? I mean, certainly it would be more noticeable, or if it's graphic or weirdly
Yeah, sure.
indulgent, those things do matter. But like, like, there is, well, I don't know. There's a little bit of a, come on, man. You're just gonna just put like someone hanging. Well, there's no context though. Obviously, there's just no context other
Totally.
than this is a Western, and then
The-
I don't know. Yeah,
in
hanging
the,
outlaws and depicting a black person as an outlaw.
Right, it does raise some questions, and there's context that we don't have. Now, one of the people representing the train exhibit or whatever said that it was totally coincidental, and they didn't even think about it. It was a Western themed thing, and there was someone being hanged like in a Western, and they didn't consider that it might have been taken that way. Now, you might say, "Oh, of course." Well, of course they would say that. But that was the defense. And my question, I guess, kind of stepping outside of the framework of the game, is like, is that inherently racist? Maybe it's insensitive a little bit because it might remind people of, racist lynchings that really did happen, which they certainly did. But
Yeah.
is it also like, let's say that this were the NAACP annual model train event, and they showed this exact same train set, they wouldn't be criticized for a racist train display. They would be praised for, showing the historical accuracy of historical racism, blah, blah, blah. These kinds of events happened in the past, and we're bringing attention to it,
Well, that is, yeah, if it's going for accuracy, and let's say the topography of the land, the model of the train, the people in their clothes were accurate, it seems reasonable. I don't know this, but like a disproportionate amount of like black males might have been the ones being hung. I really don't know, but I could just like,
I heard I don't know about Western stuff. I mean, the old West in the U.S. anyway. Those states weren't slave states. That's not to say racism didn't exist there, but they weren't slave states. California, for example.
Yeah, so these weren't lynchings; they were hanging outlaws.
They were hangings
is my
of
assumption,
outlaws.
right? They're hangings because this was
Right.
the kind of how the kangaroo courts or whatever. This is just
Yeah.
how it worked, right?
And if you want another unpleasant fact, apparently, I didn't double check this before this episode, but more white people were lynched in the South in America than black people were lynched. lynching wasn't a purely racist thing. It certainly was racist in certain instances, but it wasn't always about race. That was just kind of what they did. They would just go hang people, an angry mob.
This is how they got justice in those times, and
Yeah.
So if racism is part of the fabric, then okay, I see.
I found a second instance as well, proving that model trains are racist. It's very similar. At a model train at the world's largest train show, one of the little figurine settings next to the train tracks showed two white state troopers pointing guns at three African Americans in, I guess, a shootout or something. This was in Wisconsin, the Wisconsin State Fair, in this one particular train layout. And that was it. They called it insensitive, disrespectful, racist, and just wrong.
Well, the last two...
What do you think about that one?
I think you could make an argument for insensitive. I think you could make an argument for, what was the other phrase? Insensitive.
Disrespectful.
Yeah, well, insensitivity can be disrespectful. Mm-hmm. The leap to racism, I think we just need to be careful about these. That's should be a serious accusation.
Yeah.
I mean, that's actually I think the fundamental one issue is this: if you call everything racist, then nothing and everything is, and it loses all meaning. Whereas I'd like racism to be a serious matter that we handle seriously.
Yes.
So
you're really cutting to the quick on this bit.
I don't mean to. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, that's intention. That's the setup, obviously.
And that's where it goes, I suppose. And I wasn't trying to get there too fast. It's just that I'm thinking so that accusation, I mean, there is a part of me that's like, you're going to display something and have a bunch of white cops pointing guns at black men. They're insensitivity might be the appropriate word, or ignorant, or inflammatory, or I don't know. It's
Sure.
impossible to know. It's just that you have this thing and you see it and you go, man, that's where I feel.
Think about
anyway.
it. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Obviously, given all the strings attached to these things and the climate we find ourselves in, if I were a train set builder, I wouldn't put my state troopers shooting or aiming guns at black people. I wouldn't do that. Not because there's anything inherently wrong with displaying that. I mean, that's a situation that really happens. That's reality. That situation happens. And you could quibble about whether that happens more often than if the races are flipped or whatever, but you don't have to quibble because that is a realistic situation. It would similarly be realistic if there was one Indian cop and one Asian cop, and the white people were having the guns pointed at them. It doesn't matter. That's not the point of the display, right?
Yeah.
And so to call it racist is a stretch.
Well, and especially when the job of art is kind of to hold a mirror up to society. But I think some of the concern is, or at least accusations of racism, if we're going to take that at their best, if we're steel manning it, it's right. Yeah, okay, but if you continue to do this mirror and we have issues and the mirror, some people might interpret as glorification or normalizing images that we don't necessarily want to normalize, then so that's the best way to do that. But when you say to me, there just wasn't enough context, what was going on? What if it was actually saying, hey, a snapshot of this area of town on this day, and they had a big wild photograph, and they saw that was going. I mean, to call it racist and giving me the context I had, it's absurd. If I'm gonna make a bunch of assumptions that it was just here's a modern day train set that's really elaborate, and then it's got lots going on, and then you and then you look over in this one area and this is going on.
That's how it was.
If this is how you're depicting urban life, a part of urban life, then I don't know. I don't know what to feel. It just feels predictable that this would get accusations
Yes.
of racism. So, but I don't know that I feel one particular way other than I get curious at what are the motivations of the creator and of the critic in these cases.
Same here.
Yeah.
Well, that was those were the two that I found. So maybe a surprising angle. I don't know.
I don't know why I didn't get there. I'm a little disappointed. I should have. Anything depicting these are depictions that in various forms of realism. So of course they can just depict things that get accusations of racism. It's like, yeah.
Even if they weren't racist, then they were dog whistling about racism. Right? That's the term. Yeah.
Yeah, well, is dog whistling about racism is racism, at least by a modern definition?
Yes.
In fact, that's part of what muddies the waters a lot. So anything, if you have racism
Suggestive.
at the center of anything, if you made a racism word map, you can just turn all those words into
other
racism.
words.
Dog whistle slash racism equals racism.
Right.
So it's all equals.
And now
It's
we've
not-
added the words vacuum and model trains to that word map.
Oh,
right? 'Cause
man,
now
yeah.
there are more equals signs on there.
So now I feel like, hey, I'm in this. You want to come to this model train convention? You'd be like, ooh. Or like, hey,
Yikes.
later,
Big yikes.
I'm gonna do some spring cleaning. Maybe get out the vacuum. I'm gonna go vacuum shopping. Like, do you have any recommendations?
Oh.
Oh man.
All right, that's two of three.
All right, I'm very okay. This next
So
one.
the third one, common job or occupation, and you chose
plumber.
plumbing. Yeah, you spelled plumber wrong too, by the way.
Did I put a B in there?
No.
Oh.
Sorry, I didn't mean to out you. It was probably a phone typo.
I'm gonna call it a phone typo. Probably not though. Wait, how do you spell plumber?
Plumber, plumber.
Yeah. What did I? And I put
2 M's.
what? Oh. I'm gonna go ahead and say that was a typo. I don't know.
Like a person who picks plums. Maybe
Yeah.
that's a word.
That's what I meant, and I assume that's the research you did.
Oh no! It was my fault. I messed it up. Here I was. Here I
I'm
was
thinking it was a typo.
trying to catch your spelling, and instead I totally misinterpreted your common occupation
what
of
do you-
plum picking.
Can we critique spelling plumbing and plumber and plum
Sure.
with a B? Are you
this is
kidding
your,
me?
This is your area. You're the English teacher. I agree that some of these words are not spelled very well.
Numb and dumb and plumber. I guess, but like that's a more egregious screw up, right? We're not. There is no B. It is completely silent. We're not supposed to go. Did it begin silent, or did they used to go plumb?
I don't know the etymology of the word
Yeah,
plumbing.
well,
Maybe it has some kind of root that the B comes along for the ride in some way.
plumbing.
Plumbing.
I'm just thinking, does it have any onomatopoeia, or does it have any?
I don't think so. I could put it on Adventures in Etymology.
Yeah. It might be worthy of that. I won't look it up. I'll tell you what. I'll remain ignorant and
Thank you.
frustrated at the word. Plumbing.
Plumbing. So
Plumbering.
is it racist? Is plumbing
Yes.
racist?
My answer is yes.
Okay.
And I'm trying to figure out how. It's a blue collar job. So men are more likely to work it, and men of a lower socioeconomic status, and that might be disproportionately people of color. I'm sure there's some racist ads out there now that you've opened my eyes to that. How about this? A plumber shows up who is a black man and is not allowed into someone's home.
Oh.
There could be stories of something like that, right? Like no, or like I'm just the plumber and they call the cops or whatever. I'm picturing stories like that. or accusations of you let the plumber in and then you're missing your fine china or whatever it is that you value, and accusing the plumber, who is a person of color, of stealing. Other areas, yeah, advertising, that I can't. Those are my knee jerks.
Really good.
Am I getting good at this?
Yeah, you're getting very good at this. You
I'm
could
getting
be
really good at identifying racism.
you
everywhere.
could be an activist, no question.
Yeah.
This I think
I should create a degree. Maybe you could study this. That is exactly anyway.
I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. I found 5 instances.
Wow, it's really racist.
Plumbing is very racist. The first hit that I got that confirms that plumbing is racist is that.
Wait, I got one more, but don't.
Okay, all right.
Phrases like laying pipe, which is crude for like having sex, has been appropriated from black culture.
Oh, great, good job, man. You're.
I don't know. I was just really excited about that one.
This segment is going places, I can tell.
Okay.
I didn't include that one, but you should start writing articles. Almost 500,000 American households lack basic indoor plumbing. And, of course, renters and people of color are most likely to be living without running water or flushing toilets, according to research.
Half of American households lack
500,000.
what?
500,000.
Oh.
Not
okay,
half.
okay. It's like, that's not right.
Yeah, that would be crazy. Plumbing poverty. This article from The Guardian says is racialized, and black people make up 9% of San Francisco's population, for example, but account for 17% of households without indoor plumbing. So plumbing is racist.
Definitely racist.
Nationwide plumbing poverty, I love that phrase, is usually clustered in small pockets, reflecting historical racist housing and infrastructure policies which have long discriminated against communities of color and tribes.
Cox, community of color, communities of color. That's what I say.
I don't Cox.
Know. Sorry. I'm sorry for just what popped in my head.
That's funny. So plumbing racist. Because I guess if
people of a lower the link we made about socioeconomic equals race and
right. Well, have you ever heard that there's a joke headline that comes around every now and then, like asteroid head for Earth, women and minorities expected to be most impacted, or whatever, like
I've not heard it, but that's funny.
That's kind of the thing, right? Like any bad thing that happens,
it impacts the most vulnerable of the society most.
Right.
And that's the idea. And who's the most vulnerable? And then why are they vulnerable? And then you get to racism.
Right.
Like, it's like 6 degrees of
racism.
Racist bacon. Yeah.
Racist bacon.
Yeah, bacon would have been funny. A food item.
Bacon. I'm sure it's on here. I'm sure I could find evidence, irrefutable evidence.
Irrefutable.
You're going to really like this other proof of racist plumbing. There was an incident in Cincinnati where a disgruntled former tenant, he was charged with felony breaking and entering because he broke into a mixed-race couple's home where he used to live, and he scrawled "white power" on the walls. But then he poured cement down the pipes and paint into the appliances, which, cost a lot of money and ruined the plumbing there. So the plumbing was an avenue for his white supremacy.
Yeah, plumbing is always an avenue for whatever it is, including white supremacy. So yeah.
I also found an instance of in Canada. This is in Canada, in Halifax, a plumbing agency with the housing authority they weren't fairly hiring or promoting visible minorities. So this one particular black man said that black staff were often passed over for promotions in favor of white people who aren't as qualified.
Yeah, I guess I didn't put it. I should have said that as one of mine. Any profession that's going to be, yeah, all professions are racist if they're not, if you pass over someone.
And then I also found a big, long article that I didn't read all of because it was awful in the New York Times about how water racism is so prevalent in California.
Tell me about water racism.
Well, Daniel, today the legacy of segregation in the Central Valley reverberates underground through old pipes, dry wells, and soil tainted by shoddy septic systems. This makes lack of access to clean drinking water a problem across California today, and low-income communities are disproportionately affected. So that's the key.
Yeah, do you think you could play Is It Racist or is it contributing to climate change?
Oh, absolutely. But I think that is it racist is I think that's the hot button. Climate change is also hot button, but there's not the same propensity to tie everything to climate change. I think you could, but I don't think you would find as many articles and stuff about it as you do with racism.
Well, like climate racism kind of collided.
That's true. Well, that's
what do they call it?
Is it racist? And you choose climate change, for your thing, and then now climate change is racist too.
Yeah.
One thing that I found extremely interesting while scouring the records of human history for evidence is that every single one of these articles was written after 2015.
That is...
And in fact, I couldn't find any examples of these things from before 2015. So what isn't that a head scratcher? Because I thought that we were more racist in the past than we are today.
Yeah. Well, they're citing things in the past, I suppose.
Yeah, true.
Or maybe not in all of those things.
Not in all of them, but you're saying like the train displays.
Would if they're published in 20? Well, they do you think they're going through and saying like there was a train display long ago that we can find?
No. That's not what happened. These were current events. I think the train one was in like 2017 or 2018 or something.
I'm just mean that there's like clearly to me there's even and it'd probably be published 2015 or later a sort of reframing of past experiences or cultural movements as racist, and that happens. Yeah, but like the literature of like see the racist lens through which we view the world, like I wonder if we played this game, let's say for years and years and years, and it just kept like being rarely before 2015. Like,
well, that's the thing. That's my
hundreds
suspicion.
and hundreds of articles that we could somehow go, what was it about 2015, or like what is it about that is like worthy of examination. Yeah.
I think Black Lives Matter was founded in 2015. It was either 2013 or 2015.
When did they become like a household name?
Not until
was it around then?
Not until a little later, I think.
Okay. But it wasn't 2020.
I mean, I guess it depends on your definition of household name.
When did you heard of it?
2020.
Okay. I
didn't hear about it until then. And that's when, all the posters and the protests and everything happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I found that really fascinating because it could be a consequence. There could be a lot of confounding factors that could explain that. Like, I used multiple search engines for this stuff, so you couldn't really tie it to Google or anything. But maybe there is some kind of recency bias in the algorithms. But I think it's a reasonable hypothesis that the number of articles written about racism just exploded in more recent years. And the more interesting question is why. Why did that happen? Why is that the case? And a curious person would want to know, a curious consumer of media would want to know, am I being manipulated? Like, because if there weren't racist train events or racist vacuum cleaner events for decades and decades, when we've been assured that racism was a greater problem, then why all of a sudden are we commenting on it? And it's not like these are particularly serious cases, right? Like, it's not like
Yeah.
people died because of this stuff or anything. These are pretty silly articles to write, even if they do have a point, that you could argue in some of these. So I found that interesting. I didn't expect that. I expected to find a lot of old stuff.
My suspicion that the answer, why is it all of a sudden, and why is the war cry of racism so strong? At least from around 2020 is when I read all those books, and I think the authors of those books would say something like, we people of color have always felt this way. This has always been our narrative, but we've been a little bit, you've not been ready to hear it, and for the first time, like this, I think, what's the phrase, like racial awakening and
Racial reckoning.
Reckoning, that's it. Is like the time, like, oh my goodness, there's like an opening here. People, some groups of people, white people particularly, are more receptive to hearing it than before, and like maybe it's time. And so now it's just pouring out everywhere and in all ways. Like, yeah, that would be the answer.
Do you think that it dilutes the cause to put attention on these relatively small things?
I do. I definitely do. I mean, I get concerned about the noise surrounding lots of important issues, because I mean, I think ideally, culturally, we would be honed in and define our terms clearly and reasonably, and come to agreement and have a value system, and then debate which areas to emphasize, highlight, bring to attention, because our collective conscious can only hold so much. So that's what a good, healthy society would be like, is like, oh, we need to use our funds to elevate this program. No, this program's more worthy, and here's why. And that's our sort of political discourse. But I don't feel like we agree on terms. I don't think we agree on anything, honestly. So if you can't agree on terms or values, I mean, then it's like you're speaking a different language and you're existing in a different culture.
Right.
And so like there aren't norms with which to engage. And then it's just like good versus evil in a very like alarming sense. So yeah.
Right.
And so then you're just gonna, if it's good versus evil, then it's just like, let me find as many nuggets of team good, whether they really count or not. And you're just preaching to the choir, and you're giving fodder for the people that don't see it that way to like poke fun at too. So it's just like absolute noise that really hurts the serious discussion.
Right. Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And with this issue in particular, with racism in particular, like you said, that we don't have agreeing definitions, which we don't, as you outlined at the beginning of this episode. Like, to some people, everything is racist, and even the suggestion of historical racism is racist. Even the existence of a group of white people together could be considered racist by some, maybe more extreme. And then we don't have the same values either. Like, there's some set of people who, again, as you mentioned, you alluded to earlier, think that racism is a unidirectional thing. It can only be applied from one type of person onto another type of person, but it can't go the other way, right? And that's a value distinction, because that's not, that means that the value isn't equality, or non-discrimination or non-prejudice or whatever. It means that the value is Well, revenge.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what other way how else to frame that.
Right. And so it's very serious.
And that's
So
a
then it's-
very different value.
Yeah, it leaves you with limited options in discourse, and so like that's why I feel like we have such unhealthy discourse around it. Like what else? Like yeah, it's so difficult to come to the table if it's like, all right, well these are the terms I'm setting up, and it's like, well, can we debate those terms? Well, if you debate those terms, you're going to be on team evil. And like, oh well, now you're trying to not let me come to the table. Yeah, just rough, just really rough. Like so then two teams build their tables, and it's like you're welcome at my. I don't know. It's just dividing. It's just really, it's the divisiveness of it all is really. Whew, it's heavy.
That's it. That's all I had. It was just a fun little game.
Racist.
It was racist. Yeah, so I don't think that the segment works in repeated instances.
I don't think so either.
I'll ask every listener to imagine a future set of Is It Racist games where we pick random things, and obviously until the culture changes, you'll be able to find examples of that thing being racist. But
Our conversation would narrow to basically what we said today too.
Right, yeah, it would come to the same conclusion. But
yes.
I was a little tickled. I was worried that I wouldn't be able to find information, but I was naive, I suppose, because I was very easily, without any difficulty, able to find examples tying all of these things to racism, which is concerning, very concerning. Well, and I guess it also strengthens why I don't pay any attention to the news, especially like legacy news.
Yeah.
What garbage.
What garbage?
Garbage is racist.
I bet it is.
You did really good at guessing why they might be racist. I was impressed.
Yeah,
so.
I went to college and stuff, so you know.
Your mom goes to college. Napoleon Dynamite, racist movie, but good.
Yeah.
That's
right.
the end.
That's the end.
Do-do-do-do-do-do.